Hello, I'm Debbie Bell-Hosking for FinextraTV at EBAday 2026 in Copenhagen. And I have seated with me Daniel Szmukler of the Eurobanking Association, or EBA, and we're going to be discussing two reports that the EBA have released, looking forward into technology. How do you choose it, what's the platform, and how to learn more. So to help us learn more, Daniel, welcome to the studio.
Great being here.
So of course in my introduction I've mentioned these two reports. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, so we have just issued a report on agentic AI and embedded finance by our open finance working group. And we looked a little bit at the direction of travel where agentic AI will leave an impact in terms of use cases, in terms of particular practical applications in the payment space, but also in adjacent spaces that cover, the entire spectrum of embedded finance. And I think it's fair to say that when you look at the history of how commerce has evolved, and maybe that's a parallel I can draw here, is that we went from physical commerce to e-commerce, and e-commerce morphed more and more into mobile commerce. And we are now looking at the next type or the next manifestation of commerce, which is agentic commerce. And during each of these phases, payment instruments evolved. Sometimes we retrofitted payment instruments to serve use cases for the next phase of commerce. But now we have come to a point where entirely new ways of doing payments or transferring value has to evolve. And when we look at agentic AI, the technology that empowers this allows, so to say, more autonomous decision making in a number of use cases where previously they were linked to humans alone. And the way the report describes the evolution is that we believe the human should not be in the loop, but the human should stay in command of these processes. But they need to be brought into an era of high automation and with sufficient autonomy to speed up these processes, but not taking the human out of it entirely. And so agentic AI is, we believe, a technology that allows us to really enhance customer propositions in the embedded finance space. And the use cases we looked at, there were 5 use cases, but of course I would invite every of our members to read the details of the report to illustrate how agentic AI can serve enhancing customer propositions, can serve hiring or furthering the automation rate in many of these processes, reduce manual interventions as well, and create new value propositions, entirely new value propositions based on collapsing time and space in linear processes and creating, so to say, not sequential, but simultaneous processes in these areas. And so that's, I think, what the report tries to express in a nutshell.
That's the agentic AI report. What was the second report? Now,
the second report is in a different space. It's in the space of digital currencies. There, of course, we look at the technological manifestations around stable coins and tokenized deposits and deposit tokens. And I think here the starting point of our journey has been that there's quite a lot of confusion about the various underlying features and characteristics of these instruments, let me call it this way. And so we obviously try to define them, but we also take it further and try to pin to them particular use cases for which we believe stable coins are interesting, tokenized deposits are interesting, or even deposit tokens. So it's about features, it's about characteristics, it's about use cases as well. We're a practical body, so we really try to pin it back into, customer experiences, enhancing speed, enhancing or reducing complexity. And there we also describe the direction of travel, if I may call it this way.
Yes, and that is a phrase we're hearing a lot actually at EBAday. So we have these two reports. They are embellishing and growing on discussions we have been having here at EBAday. What do you think, and I know there's two reports, so maybe deal with one and then the other.
Yep.
What are they adding to the debate?
Well, I was very keen to listen into some of the conversations here on the panels, because indeed both topics are, as you point out, highly prominent on the agenda. And agentic AI is definitely one of the, I would say, top 3 topics that are being mentioned across various panels. Not alone because of our challenge speaker, who very much focused on agentic AI as a highly disruptive force in how we think about our business and how we enable our business, and what the role of the human is in all of this. Let's not forget, if we describe a future where agents will do a lot of the tasks that almost personal assistants do around you, in all type of interactions. Again, bring it back to the way how we conduct commerce. If we're being supported by these virtual agents around us, we have to delegate some sort of authority, some sort of mandate to them to act on our behalf, right? And that changes the scope of how commerce will evolve. And in the embedded finance space, where you also deal a lot with corporates, right? It's not just in the consumer space. A lot of the propositions are oriented towards corporates. It requires you to rethink how these processes are structured in such a world, right? So it's quite profound in terms of disruptive potential. For digital currencies equally, transferring value through legacy rails in a world that is entirely digital is, of course, you sense it's a bit unhinged. It's not a natural fit. It's like retrofitting a card payment to be used on e-commerce platforms. It was not built for this purpose. And so what we're trying to portray in these reports is we're trying to give a picture of how the world would look like several years down the road, and what type of payment methods, mechanisms, schemes, rails you would need to enable the growth of this. And so tokenized deposits and stable coins are digital currencies that are innate to this type of world.
So EBA, they've done these 2 reports, and hopefully your members can go and have a look at them. You've been closely involved with these. What would you say to the people here at EBAday and to financial institutions? How can they use this knowledge to move forward and to remain competitive in the landscape?
Well, you point out to knowledge, and I think that's where it starts. I think you need to build up a knowledge base in this, right? Then you need to experiment. It's a lot about experimentation. You need to build up that confidence factor that, yes, we want to engage with it. So that level of engagement needs to be created. But essentially it comes down to organizations, right? What will decide on a successful adoption of these instruments and technologies is your organizational affinity, propensity to allow for it to enter the organization. And as banks, we all know we have a rather conservative culture, so we're not necessarily first movers in the adoption of technologies, but my call to action would be to be fast followers then in that case. Let others also do maybe the first mistakes, learn from them if you don't want to do them all on your own, but try to collaborate a lot in that space. Maybe do things together. And we're starting seeing a lot of collaboration on stable coins here in Europe, tokenized deposits. So I think the banking industry is really preparing for this, and I think we also, from a competitive point of view, we need to, because we cannot leave that space entirely to other countries, other jurisdictions, because what will happen if we don't have a proposition on our own? Well, we will continue to lose on sovereignty. And I think that's also a big topic that we'll hear today in the strategic roundtable.
A lot to take on board, and it's good to hear those calls to action as well. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us here at EBAday.
Thank you.